Hi everybody. Today I'd like to talk about a tent that many of you who have been watching some of my videos are probably already familiar with. I've had some experience. This is the ZPacks Altaplex, and I'd like to do a full review on this tent now that I've had quite a bit of time with it. I've had a chance to learn a lot of the ins and outs of it. And I think I might have some information I can pass on to you. At least I hope I do. Anyways, let's go out and have a look at this tent. Okay, before we continue, I want to just point something out that, again, if you've seen some of my previous videos recently, I'm going to go with a ground sheet. It's not advised. Well, I wouldn't say it's not advised. It's just something that's not necessary. However, I'll go into a couple of reasons why I think, at least for me, it's a good idea. Anyway, let's set it up and we can talk about that more. Okay, so this is the ZPacks Altaplex. It is a single person, single wall, single vestibule, Dyneema composite tent. Exterior dimensions, peak height, that's this here, 56 to 58 inches. That's why I had to use an extender pole. Width at the center is 48 inches, and that's from front to back. It goes on an angle on a triangle at the back. I'll show you that in a minute. Width including vestibules, 69 inches. So basically what it's saying is you've got 21 inches of vestibule coming out. Vestibule space is 20.75 asterisk, whatever that is, 53 centimeters. Length is 100 inches. That's total length. Interior, 56 to 58 inches again for the peak height. Floor width is 36 inches. Floor length is 7.5 feet. Zipper entry height is 36 inches. This is one of the amazing things about this tent that I'd like to tell you about. Anyway, let's take you for a little tour of it and talk a little more about it. I've had a chance to have some experience with this tent. In fact, quite a bit of experience. I got this tent before I was finished my IAT, and I was actually thinking about possibly having it sent out to me, but I changed my mind. As you may all know, I was using at the time the Tiger Wall. The Tiger Wall you will too. This is a Dyneema tent. But I got it in spruce green. It weighs 17.2 ounces as opposed to 15.2. It has a little bit heavier fabric than the regular Dyneema, and I did that primarily for translucency. Let's go around it a bit. There are 10 possible stakes for this tent. However, you can put it up with 6 stakes. But if you can actually pull these tie outs at the end and at the back out, they're pretty loose right now. It's a very loose pitch. I didn't really go over it and tighten everything down. But once it's tight, I will say it stays tight. Dyneema does not stretch. Dyneema does not absorb water at all. So one of the beautiful things here is that the way the weight of the tent is the same all the time. Water just runs right off it. Now, having said that though, I gotta say this, because this tent is so waterproof, it's also prone to condensation. In fact, this is probably the worst tent for condensation I've ever had, simply for the reason that it's Dyneema. So keeping those doors open is vitally important. This is a con of the tent, in my opinion. But it's a trade-off. You get what you pay for. Dyneema is amazing. It's lightweight, it's strong, it's waterproof, its packability is medium. Like, let's use a scoring system if we're going to do that. Dyneema, I give it a 10. Weight, I give it a 10. Price, not so much. I paid $6.75 US in Canada, and by the time I did my exchanges and duties and taxes and all this other stuff, it was well over 1,000. So before you make the jump to a tent like this, it's certainly something you need to consider. The quality of this tent is amazing. It's incredible. I've said it before about ZPacks. The floor is a thicker Dyneema. It's well taped, well sealed. There are little shock cords here that you'll see. These are meant to pull a bathtub up higher than the edge of the tent. In storms, that really helps stop splashback and any water just basically splashing up and getting into the tent. And if it's windy, whatever, it's up to you. It's a floating bathtub floor, and that's why it kind of looks a little strange probably to you right now until you get your stuff in it. This tent is so roomy lengthwise. It's incredible. I gotta tell you, it's made for taller hikers. That is true. However, I wouldn't say it would do as good as what ZPacks has advertised it as. In other words, I don't know if a 6'6" person could honestly sleep comfortably without touching the ends of this tent. You have to excuse the camera work here. I'm just showing you how this door closes. Just tightening this down. There's little hooks here that keep the door attached. So yeah, anyways, these doors can be independently open and closed. Let's talk about that ground sheet for a minute. I do it for expediency. I do it for speed. Sometimes in the morning, or even, like in the morning when I'm packing the tent up. Sometimes I want to just shove it in the sack and just go. The problem with that is if there's dirt all on the bottom of it, then I have to be real careful to keep the dirt on the outside. And what eventually happens, and I've had this happen to me before many times, the tent just gets filthy dirty. It's so difficult to maintain. So my suggestion is some kind of ground sheet. That way the ground sheet's dirty. You just fold it up. It's tiny. You stick it off in a corner. It's going to be filthy. Keep one side always on the outside, the dirty side. I would put on the inside. So in other words, I would fold it in on itself so that the dirt all goes to the middle. And then you're clean. You're always clean. You're never having to worry about dirt getting in this tent because dirt is abrasive. Absolutely abrasive. And over time, it will, look at that, the ground sheet's literally being blown right out. That's funny. You have to have weight on it. Anyway, I'll take the ground sheet out for now. In case you wanted to see the ground sheet, I did buy this from ZPacks. It's made especially for this tent. And it's also made for the tarps because if you see here, it has little loops to hook onto a tarp. That's pretty impressive. So here, when I say what I was saying, just fold it up in the middle. That's the side with the dirt on it, and it'll always stay good for you. And I'm glad because it's the first time I set this up. I'm glad I got a chance to see this thing being blown from underneath the tent. That's funny. So next time I gotta know that I have to have something in there real quick, put some weight on it. What else do I have to say about this tent? In my experience, it goes up really quick. However, I can have this tent up in under a minute. But that being said, it also takes a while to tighten it up properly, and get a good pitch. It's very versatile the way you can pitch this tent. In other words, you can pitch it high, low, bring the edges practically down to the ground. This is on a slant, so it looks right now like the back of it's down towards the ground, but it actually isn't. There's so many ways you can pitch this tent. So just be mindful of that. Would I recommend this tent? Yes, absolutely. This is the tent I am taking out to the AT with me. I was worried about bringing this tent out to trails where there's a lot of platforms, such as in Quebec this year, and that's why I didn't have the tent sent out to me. However, I now noticed that ZPacks offers these anchors that are great for platforms, and what I might do is bring a set of those out with me. So I would basically just do, I don't know, 6 or 8 of them. I don't think I'd do all 10. Just don't want to carry that weight around all summer. But that would allow me to pitch anywhere, pitch on a platform. As you might know, platforms are just like 10 by 10 wooden with 2 by 6s, and there's usually a cable strung up around the edge of the platform. Makes it really difficult to pitch a tent, unless it's a freestanding tent. At any rate, so yeah, I used it quite a bit. It's a 3-season tent. This tent is very airy. If you close it down and bring it down to the ground, it'll do fine in the snow, but I suspect it'll have really bad condensation. This week I'm taking it out, and I'm probably going to see some weather. It's a beautiful day today, one of the last few of the year, but within the next week or two it's going to regularly be down to below freezing, so it should be fun. I mean, I should have fun taking this tent out and putting it through its paces. I'll do a proper loadout later, or at least where I am currently. It's a great tent. I don't know what else to tell you. I gave you all the specs, the weight, how useful it is. You know, if it's a viable tent. It's very expensive, guys. I mean, it's really expensive. There's no question about it. You're not going to find too many tents that cost more. But Dyneema is expensive. The material, the fabric is expensive. So it's not something ZPacks is doing. Other companies sell these tents as well with these fabrics, and they're equally as expensive. So it's just something you have to decide if it's for you. The reason I say this is one of the worst tents for condensation is because the water acts like a vapor barrier. It doesn't allow breathing. It doesn't breathe. This material is not like nylon. You can say what you want about nylon absorbing the water, but because nylon breathes better, it actually won't condensate. You won't build up the condensation like you would on a Dyneema tent. Polyester, I can't really comment about that. I do know that polyester is not as breathable as nylon. I do know that. So you know, material of your tent is all subjective to what you want. You have to prioritize what you want in your tent. For me, on a long through hike, packability, like ease of setup, I score it a 10. It goes up in under a minute. I can probably have it up, and then we'll take another 2 minutes to you know, pitch it down, like tighten it down. But for me, that's my purpose. If you're just going out for a weekend, yeah, I mean, sure, this would be a great tent. I mean, it'll always be a great tent, regardless. It's just some people can't justify the cost for casual camping, you know, for casual hiking or backpacking or whatever have you. And that's something you have to decide. These zippers here, the way this opens and closes, that's why I climbed in here. I wanted to talk about that for a minute. By the way, the stitching in this thing is phenomenal. If you look up, you'll see that the mesh goes right up to the top. And you'll also notice that there's an awning here. It sticks out about 4 or 5 inches from the edge. So if you don't have any wind, you'll have no problem keeping the doors open. And the screen is so sheer, so thin. It's crazy, but it looks pretty durable. I mean, it feels tough, you know. And I love the rainbow zipper. There's 2 zippers on each side that come up. I love it. However, you've got to be careful that you don't get dirt in the teeth of these zippers, because they will bind and the zippers will fail. As you can see, it lets a lot of light. It's a very bright tent. It's very crinkly. I got a Dyneema ground sheet for it simply because it was quieter and a bit lighter than Tyvek. Believe it or not, I was shocked. I had a piece of Tyvek under this, and it was noisy. Like if I'm on trail and I'm going down, and I'm pulling into a camp with 30 or 40 tents at night, and I'm putting this thing up with Tyvek, I'm going to have people angry at me. They're going to chase me out of there. They're not going to want to listen to that all night. And I'm a tosser and a turner too, so between that and the pad that I use, which sounds like a bag of potato chips, they're going to kick me out, or not, you know, like me being around. So I went and got the Dyneema ground cloth. It's much quieter, and as it turns out, it's actually 12 grams lighter than the Tyvek. So that's it. That's all I got for you. ZPacks Altaplex. That's my full review of it. There's really not much else to talk about it. It's amazing.